For so long, we've been here, we've been trying.
Hi there, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Springboard Hangout. The Springboard Hangout, as you know, is your fun-dedicated program where we have fun and ask the critical questions that pertain to our lives. My name is Comfort Okran. You know, today we are enjoying this program by virtue of social media. But we have also realized that social media does have some, interesting impacts on our lives as well as on our society. So today we want to have a cool discussion, very, very dispassionate one though, about social media and the impact on our mental health. Please don't get on your high horses. We promise also not to be very, too animated, but let's have a discussion. And then when we come out with the key learnings from that, then you make your choices as to how you want to play your social media game. To help us unravel this, we have in the studio Dr. Carol Mathias-O'chez. She is a clinical psychologist. She is focused on helping people live a fulfilled and extremely balanced life. You want your life to be chill, check her out. So we will be going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into everything. So call someone, write here where you're joining us from, and let's have a beautiful conversation about social media and our mental health. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This April on Springboard, your virtual university, it's the Dawn's Conclave with your regular host, Reverend Mathias-O'Chez. It's an unprecedented collaboration between your virtual university and 5 leading universities. Up next this Sunday, 16th April, Professor Bill Buena Poplampo, Vice Chancellor of Central University. Join us on Joy 99.7 FM, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Albert N.E. Okran at 7 p.m. Catch the retelecast on Saturday, 22nd April at 6 a.m. on Joy Prime. Where are my Centralites? It's your turn on the Dawn's Conclave. Like, comment, and share in the fan. Sponsors: Enterprise Group, MTN, UNB Bank, Media Partners, Joy FM, Joy Prime, and Graphic Business. Springboard, your personal value will shoot up.
Welcome back from the welcome back from the break. And as I said, we're talking about social media and your mental health. Carol, welcome to the Springboard Hangout.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm glad. I hope the issues you're going to talk about today, you would be able to just help us, navigate our way through any uncertainties that we have. So I always like to start with the fundamentals so that I would understand what we're talking about, or those who are listening to us would be able to understand exactly what we're talking about. When we say mental health, what is mental health, Carol?
That is such a vital question. And I also believe it's important to establish the fundamentals. And especially for us here in our culture, because we often associate mental health with the mad person we see on the streets.
Really?
Right? A lot of people, when they hear mental health, they immediately go to that image. But mental health is something we all have, right? Much like we have physical health. So, the basic definition is our social, emotional, psychological well-being. The state of our social, emotional, psychological well-being. And it's something that directs our behavior, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we process information, the way we make decisions, the way we handle stress. I like to think of it as our physical health is like the vehicle, and our mental health is like the fuel that kind of keeps the vehicle running, right? So we
Okay.
all have mental health, and much like physical health, it's on a continuum, right? At certain points, your mental health is at optimal level, and then depending on what you have going on, you could be in different stages, all the way into mental illness, right? Which is when you've been diagnosed as having a specific illness that's impacting your mental health, right? So I like to say that we all have mental health, but we can all possibly be mentally ill. There are different things that impact our mental health on that continuum. So that's what mental health is.
I like the idea that you've brought to bear, that the fact that our mental health can change over time. And you also started by saying that there's quite sometimes stigma when we talk about mental health. So is there anything that we can do to, kind of reduce or push back some of that negative or stigma that is attached to the term mental health, as well as to people who may be seeking for some solutions based on the fact that their mental health has, in that particular period of time, suffered some setback?
Yeah, that's a great question. Things like this, having conversations, because a lot of the stigma around mental health comes from a lack of awareness, lack of education, ignorance. And generally human beings, we kind of tend to be afraid of things we don't know. And so a lot of it comes from people just not knowing what mental health is about, what mental illness is, the fact that people can have a mental illness and still live a very productive life. They can receive care through therapy, through medication, and live a very productive life. So definitely having more and more conversations about it, kind of bringing it out from the shadows into the open, definitely helps. I also think it helps when people who have had experiences and successfully managed to navigate through it talk about their personal experiences, so that people can connect with it more when they can tie it to a person who has actually lived through it, more so than talking about it abstractly. So I think the more conversations we have about it, the better. We just need to keep talking about it and talking about it to the point where people don't find it strange for somebody to say, listen, I'm struggling with my mental health, I'm feeling low, just as easily as we can say, I have a headache today, for example. So definitely the conversations need to keep on happening.
More conversations, more issues that showcase people who have gone through it and are now, have overcome it, and how easy it is for you to actually fall into that state, and how possible it is to actually come out of that situation, and live a productive life. So it's just a phase in your life.
Yeah, just like you get a cold and recover, or you get malaria and recover, or maybe you get something a little bit more serious like diabetes, but it can be managed with medication. It's the same thing with mental health, right? And I think the more we have that understanding, the less strange and mysterious and it'll be.
You're telling me this?
Yes.
Is it possible that picture may have emerged based on sometimes the people that we see on the streets? So that is a picture that we see about people who are ill.
Exactly. We don't have any other pictures.
Exactly.
And usually the people we see on the streets are often they are probably suffering from the more serious mental health illnesses and aren't getting the care that they need. So then they've kind of degenerated into the state that they're in. So you're absolutely right. If that's the only image we keep seeing and we're not sort of getting alternatives, and that's why we're talking about the fact that it's important for people who navigate it more successfully to also be as out there as possible, so that people know that it doesn't mean that you will end up like the madman or madwoman on the street, right?
So having looked at this aspect where we're looking at people who the picture that doesn't give us a good insight into what mental illness is, how can we ensure that we would be able to keep a good, a healthy mentality.
Yeah. There are certain things that definitely help your mental health stay in a positive place. One of those things we know for sure is how well you're regulating your stress, because stress is one of the core things that impacts our mental health.
Stress.
And so when we're not regulating stress well, a lot of times we see that it starts to take a toll on your mental health. So thinking about how well, and we all have stress. We can't get away from stress. Big stresses, small stresses, constant stresses that come and go. But how well are you navigating them when they come? What tools do you have at your disposal that help you navigate stress? So one would be, how well you're dealing with stress. Two, we also know that social support systems, right, really help us stay in a good place mentally. So how strong is your social support system? Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's a community you belong to. Essentially, do you have people to lean on, right? So that you're not kind of navigating this life by yourself. The other thing that we don't realize also is the state of our physical health impacts our mental health. Right. So going back to going back to the very basics.
Okay.
Right? How well are you taking care of your body? Right? How much water is it getting? Is it getting the right amount of nutrients that it needs? Are you getting all your vitamins in? Are you getting enough rest? Are you giving your body enough activity? Because you cannot separate the physical and the mental.
Okay.
Right? So the state of our mental health impacts our physical health, and the state of our physical health also impacts our mental health. So one of the things you can do to definitely, ensure that you stay in a healthy place mentally is to make sure you're taking care of your physical body as well. The other thing that's also important, one of the basic needs we have as human beings is a sense of value and belongingness and accomplishment, right? So being able to pursue your dreams and your goals and feel like you're contributing to your community also really, really helps the state of your mental health, right?
Wow. What do you, so in the sense, with that statement, you kind of connected back to your first points where you talked about mental health, you aligning it to an engine in a car, so then how well you are maintaining the physical body kind of impacts on how the oil that you use to run the car works.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can definitely talk about some time when we're doing some program here at Springboard Roadshow Foundation. It was a very, very intensive program. So so the stress was high.
Yeah.
We virtually we were not sleeping virtually in the office space, and I realized that the stress was so bad that if I continue that way, I will break down.
Oh, exactly.
So what I chose to do was because I like a lot of walking, I was introduced to this hiking club, and they hike in the hills of Ibri. So as every Saturday evening, every Saturday I would go and hike in the hills of Ibri. And by the end of that week, I feel so exhausted leaving the office. I managed to sleep through the night, and then I wake up by 4:35 and go and do the hike. Carol, at the end of the hike, sometimes I'm so exhausted that I'm just putting one foot ahead of the other just to get myself to what you call the base camp.
Yeah.
But
Right.
when I go home and sleep and wake up, it's like a new body.
Exactly. You know what the trick is?
What is the trick?
When we move, there are chemicals that are at a certain rate. When our heart rate gets to a certain point, there are certain chemicals, we call them feel-good chemicals, that are released in our brain. Serotonin, and a couple of others, and they generally make us feel good. So it's probably the after effects of that as well that you're feeling after you took the nap, or after you slept and you woke up and felt really, really refreshed. Right.
It made me feel like, where is the week? Come on, let's go.
Bring on the stress.
Bring on the stress, because I am prepared for you, man.
Physical activity is great. is really great.
Yeah. So I mean, as you've heard, physical activity makes a whole difference. So sometimes when you're feeling lethargic, you feel that things are really bad. Take yourself out on a 30 minutes walk. You'll be fine. I mean, you'll be tired after the walk, but after you sleep, I can assure you, you feel much better, and you realize that you're able to look at things in a different way. Sometimes even during your walk, especially if you don't distract yourself with your phone and you're just walking focused on putting one foot ahead of the other, at the end of it, you are able to sometimes even think about the thing that is worrying you, and you come out with insights.
Clarity.
So, clarity. So because I just spoke about the social media, let's look at the other aspects of our program for today, where we are talking about social media and its effects on our mental health. What would you say is the positive aspect of social media on our lives?
A lot, actually. I think social media has connected the world in ways that, it hasn't been connected before. Somebody sitting here in Ghana can very easily connect and relate to somebody in China or, in the US, in Europe, anywhere in the world. And in that way, it's bringing us closer together, right? It's also been positive in the sense that news travels really fast, right? So everything that happens here in a minute or less than a minute, is everywhere. I also think it's a great platform for education. There are a lot of people doing great things through social media, educating people on different things, awareness and all of that. And so in that sense also, it's also community building, because communities are forming around people's experiences on social media. It's also a great platform for expression for a lot of people who have felt as though they haven't had a lot of avenues for expression. It's a great place where a lot of people's talents are being showcased.
I'm telling you.
Right? And people are having their lives are being changed because, they display a talent, and next thing, they've been picked up by someone. So I think a lot of different positive things that social media as a tool has definitely brought into our lives.
Okay. So it's a good tool.
Yeah.
Would give it that.
Yeah.
However, there's been times when some of the statistics that I read is like some people spend as much as 9 hours on social media. It is estimated that about 30% of young people, kind of believe that social media things are not very well with them. According to this statistics, it says that they feel self-doubt, and so in this case, we can see that social media sometimes is not good. What apart from how have, in your field at Thrive Care, what have you seen about the effects of social media? Negative.
Negative, yeah. There's definitely been negative effects, and like we just established, it's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good, and it can also be used for bad. I like to use the example of a hammer. A hammer can be a very useful tool, but it can also do a lot of damage if used wrongly. And I think depending on how people engage with social media, it can definitely have, and it does have, some negative impacts. And I think especially for young people, what we are seeing is that it definitely impacts their self-esteem and their self-image, right? Because a lot of what happens on social media is a comparison between lives, in terms of, there's a portrayal of somebody's life, and you look at that and you look at your life, and it seems as though, okay, I'm not accomplishing as much, I'm not doing as much. So not only have I seen it in my own personal practice, but there's actually a lot of empirical evidence, a lot of research has been done that shows that it impacts young people's self-esteem in a negative way, right? And also, like you said, it's a major distraction. So a distraction that often for young people, whatever goals they are working on, social media kind of serves as a distraction, whether it's their education or they just started working. It's a big point of distraction. It also is affecting their sleep. Young people aren't sleeping well because, like you said, they're spending hours and hours and hours just scrolling on social media. And then it's also given another avenue that exposes them to bullying. So there's a lot of online bullying that happens through social media. And when we talk about bullying, then we know the impacts of bullying, once again, self-esteem. And all of these things put together has led to us seeing higher levels of anxiety and depression in young people linked to their social media use. Because of all these impacts, they develop a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression because they often feel as though their lives can't compare, to the portrayal of the lives of other people they see on social media.
That is an interesting outcome.
Yeah.
Why do you think that somebody watching somebody's life or something, somebody's self image should have such a dire effect on the viewer? Why do you think that happens?
Because by nature we compare, right? Where naturally we kind of like to look over to the next person and see how they are doing, and instantly compare it to how I am doing.
Okay.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that what people display on social media is often just a snapshot of their much larger lives, right? But it's often a positive snapshot. So if you're focusing on that positive snapshot and you're comparing it to your whole life, right, or whatever season you're in, then for a lot of young people, they are likely to then feel as though what I have doesn't compare to what they have. And when we're talking specifically about young people, we need to keep in mind that in certain age groups, right, identity is really important. Belongingness, social development is really very important. And so a lot of young people don't know how to navigate that well in terms of understanding that, okay, whatever it is I'm seeing on social media is probably just a few minutes.
Microcosm.
Exactly, of this person's life. And it's not fair to me, or it's not fair to you to compare it to your whole life. But I think it's an issue of self-regulation and not being able to regulate. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more.
That is a really, and it just reminded me of something that I just heard, where somebody was, a former model, was talking about taking a picture, and she was in a swimming pool. And she looked really cool when the picture came out, on social media. However, she said, in reality, the water was extremely cold. The water was in her eyes, and she was, it was painful. Yeah. But she looked so good that when you look at her, you would not know what was happening, the bigger picture, what was happening at that time. Exactly. What you see rather is that beautiful look, which doesn't tell the full story.
Yeah, it doesn't. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And because of that, some people are unhappy, they have issues with their lives, they feel lonely.
They feel lonely, lots of loneliness, right? And in addition to that as well, we know there are a lot of people who post edited pictures, right? And at a point on social media, there was this wave where people were posting the unedited picture and then the edited picture, and just so hiding things like stretch marks and like fat rolls and all of that. And like you're saying, you're looking at that edited picture, and comparing your body to that, and that makes you feel as though, okay, I don't look as good as this person, without the knowledge that this person has edited the picture. But Comfort, the other thing we also have to keep in mind is that social media was created to be addictive.
It was. Why?
This is not just some random, because of money. It makes.
What, on what basis? How did they do that?
Okay, so there's this part of our brain that's called the pleasure center, right? Dopamine. And whenever we engage with something that feels good, it rewards us by releasing things into our brain that feels great, right? And so much like every other addiction, when you do something and it feels good, you kind of go in search of that thing again. So there are several things on social media that kind of trigger that reward center of our brain, right? Likes. For example, you post a picture and people are really big on likes, whether or not people come and like the picture. I literally know people who, after they post the picture, every second they're picking up their phone to see how many likes they get. The more likes you get,
the happier you get.
Exactly. And that is feeding that reward pleasure center of your brain. And so you will go seeking for it again. oh, okay, I got this many likes. It feels good. Let me post a picture. Let me post an even nicer picture, right? I'll get more likes. So then that part of your brain has been triggered, right? There's another feature of social media, which is, I don't know if you know, there's a part where you can just scroll through your feed, and we call it sort of like unpredictable reinforcement.
Okay.
As you're scrolling through, you kind of never know what to come next.
Okay.
Right, but every once in a while, you see something that either really speaks to you or helps you feel connected to someone, and then that behavior has been rewarded, right? Which increases the chance that you keep on doing it, just in the hopes that something else
that you like
will come up, right? And so once again, that's another way in which it hooks into that pleasure center of our brain and kind of keeps us coming back. So it was designed to be addictive. It's not just random, right? There are psychologists that work on this kind of stuff with an understanding of the human brain and human behavior. So it was created to kind of get you hooked so that you stay there, right?
Created to get you hooked so that you stay there. And that is the downside of the social media space.
Yeah.
I mean, the conversation is so important, but we went on the streets to find out from people how they view social media. So let's go to the "Would you say waiting" segment.
I have a friend that her own, at times, not even at times, but it's like her life, everything is like, she always gets sad easily. Always she's sad. So one day she told me that when I come online, it makes me release the stress. And maybe I'll come and find something that will make me to laugh.
I think social media has negative impacts on mental health, but the positive parts outweigh that of the negative. Because a lot of people get distressed because of the current happening in the country and the world at large. So there are times that things are not going well for people and they just want to jump on social media, get some funny videos, some funny stuff, like read tweets and all of that. And they get entertained, they get happy, and they forget about what happens in their life at that moment.
You hear people saying that in Ghana you don't need to get out of your house to be happy. You only need data. They always say that, and I think the proof is in the pudding. So I think, yes, people definitely go to social media a lot just to be happy and get themselves out of the anxiety or the depression that they're feeling.
Most of the youth today always be on social media more than picking up their books to learn to achieve their academic goals in life.
People already have what they are doing with their lives. People have things affecting them already, and some people would want to come and portray how they feel on social media. So imagine your feed has people who are depressed. I feel that is going to, in one way or the other, affect you, because you learn from what you see. That's the first thing you have to take notice of. So if, let's say on Twitter, you see a lot of quotes and it has to do with depression, automatically, one way or the other, you get depressed, because at a point you believe you can relate to what they are saying.
We are feeling more of the negative effects, unlike the positives, because there are so many things that I think just being able to open Google or even open TikTok and find out how to install, I'm into hair and beauty, so how to install some kind of hair gave me the opportunity to start my business even before I went to school about it. So it definitely has its good sides, but at the moment I think we are feeling more of the pressure from seeing a 22-year-old in a Camry or in her East Legon 3-bedroom house, unlike seeing the more positive sides of someone having started a new business and people really following her and seeing that she's doing something good.
You say waiting. And those were the views from our guys on the street. And I said, well, thank you, Carol. You realize that was very insightful.
It was.
Really insightful. What comments? Do you have any comments on what they said?
It's really interesting that they brought up the fact that social media kind of provides a lot of comic relief, which is true. A lot of people find a lot of joy in,
especially TikTok.
in a lot of the comedy that they find on social media. But it's interesting that it was quite a balanced view. There's a clear sense that it has its positives and it has its negatives. So it was interesting. Definitely interesting thing.
And when I went on our Facebook feed, Ayensu Ayensu said that this is enlightening. Thank you so much, Nadede. And then Freeman gives us a tip to our next segment. Freeman said that I got control over my pleasure center for likes when I turned off the like count. I had no clue there was anything like that.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can turn it off such that people don't see the number of likes that you get on a picture.
Wow.
So there are ways it's a tool. So once again, there are ways to use it in a way that is more helpful than not. And I'm sure we'll talk about
So once Freeman has opened the door, let's enter.
So like I said, it's a tool. So really it's about self-regulation. How are you using the tool? And I think there are certain things you can keep an eye on. I like, especially when I'm talking to young people about social media, I like for them to really start by having an awareness of their use of social media, right? So do you have a good sense of how much time you're spending on social media? Do you have a good sense of how, when you've been on social media and you come off it, how are you feeling? Do you generally come away feeling better? Do you come away feeling worse? It's important to have an awareness of these things. Exactly. Do you tend to use social media as a way to avoid? When do you find that you're grabbing your phone? Maybe there's something happening that you don't really want to deal with, so you pick up your phone to kind of just distract yourself. We all do it.
Definitely.
But it's important to have an awareness of your own personal kind of relationship with social media. And then very practical things you can do, right? You can literally curate your experience on social media by doing some of the things that Friedman talked about, right? Yeah. For example, you can take off that feature where people get to see the number of likes you have. You can be very intentional about the accounts you follow, right? Because social media, what it does, much like Google and Yahoo and all of that, what they do is the things you look for, they automatically kind of feed you more of that stuff.
I even think that they spy on me and listen to my conversations and give me the things that I talk about.
Right? So if you have to be really intentional about the accounts you're looking at, the pages you're looking at, because that is what will curate the kind of experience you have. So if the accounts that you find trigger you because of the things they talk about, make you feel low, unfollow them. Right? Be very intentional about who you're following and who you're engaging with on social media. Right? I encourage people to think about limiting their time on social media. I know people who literally set time limits, right? Over the span of a day, I won't spend all put together more than 2 hours on social media. Whether it's 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here, all together, it shouldn't be more than 2 hours. And different phones have features that can record that for you, right? So it gives you a sense of how much time you're spending on social media. The other thing that's really important to the comfort is not to start your day with social media, right? There are people who roll out of bed as soon as they wake up and they grab their phone straight to Instagram.
But what if someone has sent you a message?
See it an hour later or 30 minutes later, right? But give yourself some time to start your day in a way that doesn't immediately plug you into the world of social media. And people do that in different ways. I know people who have rules around, okay, I'll only go to social media 2 hours after I wake up or an hour after I wake up, but it won't be the first thing I kind of do. And the last thing I'll say is social media is one aspect of our lives. It's really important that we are also nurturing the other aspects of your life, right? So are you putting your phone down and having actual conversations with people? Are you putting your phone down and hanging out with your friends? Are you, involved in some community work? Are you sort of involved in chasing your dreams? Are you making sure that you are nurturing the other aspects of your life so that social media doesn't become sort of like the center of everything that you do? Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, due to this, I always say that when we are at table, everybody should put the phone down. They always put their phone down. So sometimes, I remember recently we went to a restaurant, and I mean, they brought some of their friends as children, and then they didn't know the rule, and when they came with, you know, and then the children looked at each other, and they were like, there are no phones allowed on our table.
Yeah, I know a lot of families that do that. So like have social media or phone-free zones and areas in their home. And mealtime, because it's a great time to talk and connect and have conversations with each other at the table.
I tell you, because at that time, at our side of the table, we were talking, and then the other, because they came at around the same time, they were here and they were on their phones. So when they put their phones down, in about 5 minutes, you should see the laughter at that side of the table as well. And so I picked my daughter who was next to me, and I said, can you see what is happening down there? They put this one down, and all of a sudden, they are seeing the human connection.
Exactly.
So I mean, having the non-phone part of your life is not just important, but it helps you recover that human connection that we need. And the reason why we go on social media in the first place.
Exactly. You've nailed it. And that's why we say it's a connection tool, right? But it can be a connection tool, but you can still also tap into, this kind of connection where the phone is away and you're kind of interacting face to face with someone.
So let's say that we've come across, or some young person has really been so used to this, using social media so much that this person, let's say, spends about 12 hours on social media, doesn't sleep early, and so on and so forth. Is there any way you at Thrive Care can help her or him?
Usually our focus would be on reduction as opposed to complete elimination.
Okay.
Right? Because like you said, if they've been doing it for a while, right, our brain does this strange thing where it gets used to stuff. And familiarity, things that are familiar, feel safe. So even if it's a negative thing, your brain is used to it, right? And it feels safe. So trying to take that thing away, you'll feel a lot of resistance. Right, so the goal wouldn't be to try and eliminate, take the phone from them, cold turkey, no social media. it won't work. And they might even then start engaging in some reckless behavior to get access to it. It's to start by trying to reduce, for example, the number of hours that they are spending. So if they are currently spending 12, you can say, okay, let's try and bring it down to 10. Right, and then let's think about what you can do with those 2 hours, because like you said, we often go to social media to try and meet a need. So let's try and figure out what that need is, and what can we do to with the 2 hours that are now freed up that can meet that need. Maybe instead of being on social media, you can go outside and play a game of basketball with your friends, right? Because it allows you to connect and interact with people, and then slowly continue to work at reducing the number of hours, while also kind of replacing that time with something that meets the need that social media was meeting. So that is the approach we would typically take to help somebody kind of navigate that, and then also get them to be interested in other things, right? So is there sports they're interested in? Is there a skill they might want to learn? Is there something else that they might want to do, with the time that they would typically spend on social media?
I came across some young gentleman who was advocating complete ban on social media. Carol, well,
what is his reason?
His argument was indeed about the fact that it's an addictive forming behavior. The tools that were used is based on, let's say, the Vegas kind of slot machine activity. And his argument was that why would you, when you go to Vegas or any casino and you use a slot machine, you leave it there and come back. But in this case, you are taking the slot machine into our bedrooms.
Exactly.
And so why don't we rather just shut off social media, because in the end, it gives you productive hours to work. And instead of being distracted by constantly feeding the addiction.
Yeah.
So that was, would you advocate for that?
No, because it's not real. I don't know if it's realistic.
Okay.
Right. I think trying to find more of a middle ground is what I would advocate for. Because yes, with the slot machines you leave. So why don't we figure out a way for people to gain the knowledge and the tools to be able to put some use social media, but then have the tools to be able to put some separation between themselves and social media for a while, and then come back to it when they want to, right? I think it's about regulation. If we can educate people and get them to be confident in their ability to regulate their use of social media, then it doesn't have to be banned. Because comfort, the truth is it does have a lot of pluses.
Okay.
Right? So we kind of don't want to throw everything out. We rather want to figure out how can we do it and engage with it in a healthier way than we currently are. Yeah.
And actually, Nadide says that she is definitely turning hers off completely, so that she doesn't the likes, so that she can reduce the feel good center feeling when she goes on social media. Now, finally, not finally, but in a sense, can you give us some practical tips to help us manage our social media and mental health? We want to connect the two now.
Okay. So like we've been talking about, it really has to do with regulating having an awareness of how social media is impacting your mental health, right? And figuring out ways to regulate that. So I think the first practical tip is, I would ask you to think about gaining that level of awareness, right? How does social media impact me? How do I feel when I've been on social media? What are the things that I engage with on social media that make me feel good? What are the things I engage with on social media that don't make me feel good? So you have that awareness as a starting point. And then the second thing I'd ask people to think about doing, I'll connect it back to what I said earlier on about making sure that you are nurturing other aspects of your life as well. Right, not just for your social, to help you limit your social media use, but just generally to take care of your mental health. If you kind of go back to what I talked about in the beginning in terms of the things that help to put us in a good mental health, are you nurturing those parts as well? Are you tapping into your social support systems? Are you spending time with family? Are you talking to people? Are you pursuing your dreams and your goals? Are you kind of finding ways to express yourself? Are you taking part in physical activity? Making sure that you are nurturing the other aspects of your life as well, so that it's not just social media. And then getting real intentional about the kind of experience you have on social media. And like we've just said, you can curate that experience.
Yeah.
Right? Another thing I know that people do is every once in a while they'll fast from social media.
Yeah.
People do social media fast where they can unplug completely, sort of shut down their accounts and maybe take a month or two away and do something, just other things, develop other interests, right? So that there isn't that dependence that forms on social media. I also know people who make it difficult to access their social media because every time they kind of come off social media, they actually log out.
Okay.
Right? So that they are not, because for most of us, we are constantly logged in. So as soon as you pick up your phone, it's always there. But some people, and some people find it really helpful, they actually log out so that when they have to engage with it again, they actually have to log back in. Yes. And sometimes that's when they think about that, they're like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Right? Let me just leave it alone. So I think these little practical things that you can do to sort of make sure that you are limiting or making it harder for you to spend time on social media is super important. And then, we talked about the start of our day, but also the end of our day is important. What the things we do right before we go to sleep really impact the quality of sleep that we get.
Okay.
Right? The constant blue lights from all these devices really messes with what our internal kind of sleep-wake rhythm that the body naturally has, right? So if you're constantly having that blue light in your face right before you sleep, the quality of sleep is likely to be poor. So I ask people to also develop a nighttime routine that doesn't involve social media, right? So for example, think about ending your social media use by a certain time at night.
An hour before you sleep.
Or maybe more, maybe by 9 p.m., 8 p.m., depending on when you go to sleep, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., you're done with social media. You do other things. You might read a book, you might listen to music, you might, talk to, your partner, your children.
I think I know, Nisa, I know some people who I have to talk to about that.
We will mention names.
We will not mention names whatsoever.
But yeah, developing a nighttime routine or a sleep routine that doesn't involve social media, right? I think it's also important.
Carol, you're such a sweetheart.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on that note, we will now move to the Ask Comfort segment.
Hi there. Welcome to the Ask Comfort segment. Salasi Kuma from Asamankesi is asking, what makes a champion different from the average person in the workplace?
In this case, since you're talking about champions and not on social media, no. But basically, a champion is somebody that you can go to in the workplace and pose a question or ask the person for some support, and the person is able to say, look at what you bring to him or her and say, okay, if you do this, this would work, and that kind of stuff. And so the question is, what makes a difference between someone who you can go to and someone who you ask the person doesn't even blink at you? The key factor there, the key differentiator is someone who has a can-do, or all things can work, and therefore looks at things not from the barrier point of view, but from the possibility point of view. Such people, they do so well in workplaces because people know, the team members, the head, everybody knows that if you want things to be done, you want ideas to be thrown into what you want to accomplish, you have this person who will look at it from the angles, show you what may be the stumbling points, but most importantly, tell you how you can move beyond that stumbling block. And guess what? Would I rather work with a champion or with an average person? Most definitely. I would love to have champions all around me, because then we'll be able to achieve so much more in our workplace. So, dear viewers and listeners, know that be a champions in your workspace, because that is what makes you get promoted. That makes you also expand your horizon. It gives you more options. Let's raise champions in our workspaces. And that brings us to the end of the Ask Comfort segment. We will go for a quick commercial break. When we return, we will wrap up this conversation.
This April on Springboard, your virtual university, it's the Dawn's Conclave with your regular host, Reverend Abet-Okran. It's an unprecedented collaboration between your virtual university and 5 leading universities. Up next this Sunday, 16th April, Professor Bill Buena Popelampo, Vice Chancellor of Central University. Join us on Joy 99.7 FM, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Albert N.E. Okran at 7 p.m. Catch the retelecast on Saturday, 22nd April at 6 a.m. on Joy Prime. Where are my Centralites? It's your turn on the Dawn's Conclave. Like, comment, and share in the fan. Sponsors: Enterprise Group, MTN, UNB Bank, Media Partners, Joy FM, Joy Prime, and Graphic Business. Springboard, your personal value will shoot up.
Welcome back to the Springboard Hangouts, and today we're talking about social media and our mental health. We were privileged to have Dr. Carol in studio telling us all about what mental health is. So we looked at some of the stigma that is attached to mental health. We also looked at social media and saw how social media kind of is a tool but can be abused based on how we use it. And so unfortunately, we've come to the end of today's program. So Carol, what would be your closing thoughts? And I think I would also like to ask you, if someone wants to have a chat with you, where can the person reach you on?
Okay, thank you. So 2 main things that I'd like for us to think about in closing. One is this idea around being intentional about taking care of our mental health. The same way we're intentional with our physical health, right? There are certain things we do specifically, either on doctor's orders, to take good care of ourselves in a preventative way.
Yes.
Right? So it's really important that we're doing the same thing with our mental health, because your mental health just isn't magically going to stay in a great space. You have to intentionally do some things. And so just a quick reminder of some of the things I talked about earlier, making sure that you are dealing with stress in a healthy way. You're regulating your stress so that it doesn't impact your mental health negatively. You are tapping into your social support systems of family, friends, people you can lean on and trust, right? You are making sure that you are pursuing your goals and the things that you want to accomplish, so that you're getting that sense of fulfillment. That's great for your mental health. And then that you're also taking care of your physical health, because you can't separate the two. And the second thing I'd like for us to also kind of think about in closing is, we've been saying that mental health, social media is a tool, right? And I really like to ask people to think about the fact that a tool doesn't tell you how to use it. You are the one who determines, based on what your needs are, what you're going to use the tool for. And it's important that we take a similar stance with social media. It's a tool you can use. There are ways in which you can use it for your benefit. We've talked about some of those ways. And then there are ways in which they can also be very detrimental, right? So think about, how do I use this tool more to my benefit instead of it being something that impacts me negatively. And once again, if you have to do it, right? I feel like we like to talk a lot in this country, but we don't always do, right? And so some of the tips we've shared, be intentional about, adding 1 or 2 into the ways in which you interact with social media, and I'm pretty sure you'll see a big difference. If you would like to get in touch with me, my website is thrivecaregh.com. So that's thrivecaregh.com. All the contact information is on there. I'm also very active on social media, doing mental health awareness and education.
Okay.
And the account name there's thrivecare_gh.
Okay.
So, but particularly if you go to my website, thrivecaregh.com, you'll get all the contact information you need, email, phone number, and you'll be able to reach me.
Oh, Carol, it's been such a privilege being with you today, enjoying this conversation in this calm and relaxed manner. Yeah. And I know that we will definitely have you back sometime to talk on something else, or to support us in one of our Springboard quests in different aspects of what we do here at the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm sure you've learned so much, and most importantly, I believe you now would be slightly more cautious about how you use the tool for good, so that the tool doesn't rule over you, you rule over the tool. My name is Comfort Okran. This has been the Springboard Hangout. On Sunday, this program will be repeated on the ETV at 5 p.m. For those who saw the advert about the Dawn's Enclave, to this Sunday to be shown at 7 p.m. on Joy FM, on YouTube, as well as on our various social media handles. It will be repeated during the week on TV, and would let you know when that will come on. So until we come your way again, I'd like to say thank you, Carol, for passing by, for making this such a beautiful day. And you know you are so phenomenal. You know you are exceptional. Most importantly, you know you are loved. So enjoy a wonderful week until we meet again next week, Thursday. You are blessed. You are loved. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
So long